Call to order tonight's meeting of December 7th. Tom Chapa.
Here.
Heather Del Conte.
Here.
Pamela Dowd. Lisa Glidden.
Here.
James McKenzie.
Here.
Sean Ahmed.
Here.
Linda Sereno.
Here.
Zachary DeMott.
Here.
At this time, would the board like to move to executive session to discuss the work performance of a particular person? Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You may move to executive session. You'll be using the room right behind us.
Okay. Oh, with that.
this time, could I have a motion to return to regular session, please?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence for a retired employee, Elizabeth Woods. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. No, the other way. Thank you.
Okay. Before we're actually going to adjust the agenda just a little bit so that Zach can offer us some of his insight because he has to leave early from this meeting. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, thank you very much. Just had a couple topics to bring up to today's meeting. The first one is addressing some of the issues in the school. First thing is the staff and admin is working really hard to get these hallways a lot calmer and less altercations are happening. I know I saw one in the first week of school and haven't since, so I think that's a good positive. And we're shifting back into a more comfortable atmosphere, which I'm happy about that. And we've been really successful in the cafeteria aspect. I know students were complaining in the beginning of the year. It just wasn't a good system that we had, and so we shifted it around. We are allowing students to now sit with their friends, so they don't have to have assigned seatings every single day at lunch. And we have a QR code system where you easily scan it with your phone, and contact tracing is in order, and everything is a lot safer. Second thing I had was that there's a lot of school spirit and hallway decorating and holiday fun. Students came to admin to enhance school spirit, student council specifically, and we're gonna have a school spirit week this week before winter break, and we're gonna have a lot of theme days like pajamas and hats wearing and socks and sweaters. So that'll be really fun. I think it's good for the school. And then also we're doing hallway decorating. The Key Club is decorating teachers' doors. They have requested themes, and the students have taken a door. I personally am part of the Key Club, so I'm excited about doing that this week. Get the high school a lot festive. And then also there are some concerts coming up. I just wanted to bring that up. Next 2 weeks there's going to be band and chorus throughout all the schools, elementary school, middle school, and high school. And that'll be at the theater. It'll be, I think, a good time. Anyone who can come, I hope to see you there. I will be performing in the band. And let's see, lastly, talked to Mr. Lanigan about this newly implemented student and staff member of the week that he came up with. It's a new concept to recognize the students from each grade, one from each grade per week, and a staff member to show appreciation for hard work and to try to improve the culture at OHS. So the art students in the high school, they created this medal for the students to be able to wear throughout their week if they are nominated and chosen. And another cool thing is anyone who is nominated, we're going to have ballot boxes throughout the school. There is a slip. You can put down your nominated person and the reason. So any student who is nominated will receive their feedback, and hopefully it's a nice comment and make their day better. And if they win, it makes it that much better. And hopefully that'll get some of the culture back into the school. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Question about that. So any student can nominate any student
Yep.
for any reason?
Yeah, and any student can nominate any student, any staff member, any student, and the student can recommend a teacher as well.
And then are they selected if more than one person selects that same student? How are they then selected?
It's
from there?
it would be either a majority or I'm guessing they would create a group of people who would vote with like a little club.
Like a committee of some
Yep.
sort. Okay, great, how exciting.
Great. Next is floor to the public. There's no speakers tonight. We'll move to Board of Education. Item A, revision of the 2021-22 instructional calendar. Could I have a motion?
Make the motion?
Linda first, Tom second. Is that correct? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Item B is revised Oswego City School District Organizational Chart as attached. Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
What's that? Okay, well, we have a first and a second out there, but I would actually like to make a motion to put this at least after the superintendent's report, so we have that information, and then we have a full conversation about it.
So if Linda just withdraws her motion, then you can,
We can do that as well, yeah. Well, was Linda the first?
yes.
Linda, would you mind withdrawing your motion, and we'll put it after the superintendent's report? Okay, then we'll
Okay.
do that. Okay, thank you.
Next is recommended action, Board of Education 2021-22 Visitation Committee appointment. Could I have a motion?
Can we get a first and a second for discussion purposes?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Second, who? Lisa?
It was
Thank
Lisa
you.
and then Tom.
Tom. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
This was put out here as a proposal, actually, because we are required to visit all of the buildings within a year, and there was the conversation that maybe we need a committee to do that, because it is really difficult, and plus we break open meetings laws if we're all together visiting a building together. We'd have to have an open meeting at that time. So the concept was to create a committee, so that's what we're discussing right now. And I don't think we don't actually have to populate it, we just have to create the committee, and then we can populate it as well, but the motion is to create the committee.
I'll make the motion.
Well, it's
We're all
already
set.
on the-
Yeah, we're all
Then
set.
I don't-
So, just to clarify, because I know we had talked about like 2 days this week, and I'm actually still waiting to hear back on something for Friday. I'm in favor of doing the committee, but I just think we need to realize that it still may be difficult to get 3 of us together at one time. So we may, like this, as long as we can be kind of flexible about like who's going and what, and do visits at other times. I don't want us to like violate our own committee. Or is this a committee that we're all on?
I think it'd be a representative committee, yes?
Okay, and then whoever can make it, can make it. Sounds good.
Okay.
Tom?
No, so it's just a standing committee, and then we can roll in and change basically what Lisa's saying. We can roll in personnel for each visitation that we make.
And I don't think it precludes other board members from having a visit to buildings. If we can still do that, it just makes sure that that this committee meets the requirements of the policy, so
Right.
that it's done. And as far as the visitations coming up, it is close to holidays. I know a lot of people have a lot on their plates, so if those are not good dates, they're offered out there. But we'll have other opportunities as well. I realize there's a lot going on right now. So I guess this is about, do we agree that we should have a committee? Flexibility inside it. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Calvin.
Okay. Good evening, Board. Oh, I think this is on. Yep, okay. Good to see everybody back tonight. Just a couple of things I think we'd like to start out with is just some congratulations to some of our students. We have a number of things that are going on across the district, lots of great things that are happening. We recently had some of our students, multiple students at the middle school who recently earned some academic honors. Congratulations to all of those students. We also want to thank all of our KPS teachers. Recently, they took a pie in the eye as a part of a giving project, and the kids were able to just have fun with their teachers, right? So thank you to the teachers who took the pie in the eye. I want to also congratulate our Fitzhugh Park School. Last night, they had their concert band and orchestra concert, and then tonight, as Zachary was talking about, we have the middle school here in the high school auditorium, and really throughout the next week, we'll have quite a bit of different concerts. So just want to thank all of our teachers, all of the staff who make these concerts possible, and thank you to all of the students for their hard work and their efforts as well. And then also wanted to recognize our girls swimming team. The Oswego Lady Bucks finished their 2021 season on a high note at the New York State Swimming and Diving Championships. These contests were held at Ithaca College, and we had a number of students recognize: Sydney DeLapp, Grace Wing, Mallory Upcraft, Mackenzie Partlow, Sierra Tynan, Jocelyn Konsigi, gave all that they had, basically, and they really did a great job against the best swimmers in the state. They finished in the top 20. They were number 15. And Sydney DeLapp was honored with the Sportsmanship Award and represented Section 3 in the elite group of dozen girls in the state. Sydney DeLapp and Grace Wing also qualified for the Scholar Athletic Honors Program based on their GPA and individual accomplishments this season in the pool. So we just want to celebrate all the students. A lot of great things happen across the district, and we just wanted to recognize our kids tonight for just a moment. I want to shift gears now and talk a little bit about our budget calendar. So according to the calendar, between now and the 30th, we're going to continue our meetings with budget builders to review the current budget and plan for the 22-23 school year. At our next meeting, we are supposed to give a presentation on the capital budget portion of the budget, and so we'll be back to share that information with the board and to gain insight and input from you all for sure. One of the things, though, as we are building the budget, I do want to make sure I share with the board is that there is one little, one challenge that we're facing across the entire county. And it really it involves our P-TECH program that many of our students, we have about 24 students who attend P-TECH, but students from the entire county are certainly involved in this program through our BOCES. And I just wanted to share that a couple of things that we're looking at right now is around funding. So there is a grant, a state grant, that's about $527,000. $250,000 of this grant cover staffing costs. The other $277,000 cover higher education expenses, because there's a college that's involved with this as well. Unfortunately, what we know is that this is the last year of the grant, and so there's some concern about cost for the program for all of the districts that are involved. Given the cost, there could be an increase in tuition that could go up. So, we know that if we don't get some of the same money back, that there's, some districts that may not want to continue on because of the costs that are involved, and then there's some who will continue on. But with the possibilities of districts who may say, I don't want to continue to move forward, and with the loss of the grant money, it could definitely raise up the tuition amount for the program. So, and it would raise considerably. So we're talking about going from $76.35 to $12,083 per student. The cost may continue to go up due to decreased district participation as well. So if other districts drop down, the cost could go up more. Again, we have 24 students in this program. Current costs are $183,240. And then if we continue with the same number of students, our costs would increase to $289,992. So that's an increase of, just over $106,000. Certainly there's more information coming on this, but we won't know the final piece until around April. But in the interim, I'll tell you what's being done. And there's a couple strategies that the P-TECH program have been employing to try to, gain additional funding. So the first involves the Senate and the Assembly. There have been some bills that have been put forward to extend funding for 5 more years for cohort 3. We are actually cohort 3. Cohort 1 and 2 have kind of gone before us, but we're now on cohort 3 of this program in our BOCES. Cohort 1 and 2 asked for additional funding from the Senate and the Assembly, and they have already received extended amounts of money, so they've already been extended for their amount that they needed, okay? So we're hoping that maybe that will be able to, we'll just be able to get extended like cohort 1 and 2 did. The strategy 2 that we've been working on is with respect to the Senate and Assembly. Again, there's been some bills that have been put forward to permanently fund early college high schools in the state and P-TECH programs. There's been lots of discussion with legislators around, can you just permanently fund them so we don't have to keep coming back every 5 years and asking for more money? To this date, we know that this has gone before both the Assembly and the Senate. The Senate has approved their bill, and now it's been sitting before the Assembly. Strategy 3, P-TECH officials have met with county legislative members here in Oswego County to request workforce development funding. There is some funds that are there around workforce development, and certainly this is something that is a part of the county. So there's been some requests there to see if we can secure funds to help make up some of the gap there. And strategy 4 is P-TECH officials are also researching the federal job challenge grant. That is a grant that's offered through the Biden administration to a certain, what we're looking to do is ascertain how P-TECH programs might access funding through this particular grant program. So there's about 4 different things that are being worked on. We hope that strategy 1 will be the one that happens. As I said, cohort 1 and 2 did get extended funding. We hope that that happens for us. But we just wanted to share that with the board as we are moving into this budget season, so that we just kind of keep that on your minds and let you know what's happening with respect to that. Okay? Any questions on that at all? Okay? All right. Budget questions. So just wanted to just bring up one question for the board. Just for consideration, and you don't certainly have to answer it tonight, but just wanted to, share that, at the last meeting, we did have some discussion about, the budget and trying to make sure that we are careful with how much we kind of go out there with our budget, I believe. The comment was, try to pump the brakes if we could. And certainly what we want to do is try to, be careful with how much we do go out and ask for with respect to the budget. So this year, we're expecting similar aid, if not more. We know with the foundation aid that there might be more aid that will come in. We hope to have more come in now that the governor has signed off and said we're going to fully fund foundation aid. And so, we hope that we'll have some extra than what we're used to. We do have, ARP and ESSER funds as well, which, certainly is good to help us with, closing gaps and moving students forward. So one of the things that we are thinking is that, I'm not sure where the board is at, but, Nancy and I have talked a little bit about this, quite a bit about it, and we think that we might be able to create a budget that will, be tax cap, it will certainly meet the tax cap. We believe that we could actually create a budget that would, present a 0% increase for our taxpayers like we did last year, basically. We think that we certainly can continue to maintain all the programs that we have, moving ourselves forward. The implications with doing that, certainly there are some implications, right? So it's a part of, each year when you don't raise more money for your budget, you lose the, opportunity for those funds that are kind of on the table. So, every year you kind of go out with 0, you're not raising more, then you have to just keep in mind that that's some monies that the district could have, added to its functioning, right? So, this is certainly something just to think about, but I guess what we want to do is just kind of whatever the board wishes, our goal is to try to offer that. And we think that we can do a 0% increase budget, and if the board would like us to do that, we'd love to be able to expedite and just kind of focus there, and just kind of, start in that realm with budgeting, so that way we don't lose track. We can spend a lot of time creating these other scenarios, but if we can do this and still offer everything that we need for our kids and continue to move us forward, then we'd like to move in that way. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with you and see what your thoughts were. I think it would save us time rather than trying to, do something that.
Are you looking for feedback at this moment?
Yes.
Okay, so is there feedback from the board? I just have a quick question for Nancy, just along the same lines. Looking ahead, do you see a cliff situation? Because that's what you want to avoid. But if we can, obviously, if we can take advantage of this, this is great news, but we don't want a cliff 3 years down the road.
Right, so as Dr. Calvin had said, we are expecting to get more foundation aid. We just have to make sure that in our ARP and our SR2 plan, that what we have built in there is sustainable. I know that Carrie has gone through the ARP and ESSER plan to make sure that if we do take expenditures from the general fund and move them to the federal funds, that we have strategies down the road so that we don't face that cliff. Are there guarantees? No, but we're very positive with the increase in the foundation aid that we should be okay.
Other thoughts?
I had a question as well, Nancy, you answered this for me before, so I apologize, but when will we see the results of the assessments and pilot programs that have recently been brought on in the community, or will we see that prior to, in terms of that portion affecting our budget?
I can give that to you anytime that you want.
Do we have the most current ones?
We get them monthly.
They come in
Sporadically?
every day. So as a matter of fact, I received 2 on my desk today. We can update that spreadsheet and we can provide that to the board and transmittal.
Yeah, because that will affect us in terms of our revenue stream. I mean, that is a revenue stream. If we don't know what that is, I mean, we would need to know that with more certainty, right?
Sure, yep. I think, I'm sorry, question, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead. I was just going to respond to, I'm not sure if it would be a fiscal cliff, but just want to make sure we keep in mind that I believe we're in year 2 or 3 of the pilot with the nuclear plants. Year 3, I think. Where are we at right now, 2 or 3?
2.
I think it's 2.
Okay, so we have a couple years down the road, right? We don't know what will happen with those plants 3 or 5, 5 years out. But that if there is a challenge, that might be the main area, right? That there could be some problems with. But again, I mean, my thought is that we have record amounts of monies in ESSER and ARP money right now, millions, and then we have this additional amount that's coming in with foundation aid. It'll give us at least another year to kind of see what that really looks like, and does it really come through like they say? And I'd love to see what's going to happen in terms of all the other aid categories, transportation aid, high cost aid, all those things. So this would be a good year to kind of see how things level out, especially before we start to add more onto our taxpayers. That's what we're kind of thinking a little bit. Does that answer your question, Heather? I hope.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
absolutely.
Sorry.
Jim?
So, speaking about the budget and talking about a 0% increase, if I heard you correctly, you were referring to the tax levy. Is that what we're talking about when a 0% increase? Or are we talking about a 0% increase on the budget as a whole?
We're talking about really the taxes, right? Tax levy there.
Okay. So, one of the things, as a person who has mentioned the pump the brakes, in thinking about cliffs, thinking about a pilot, thinking about how it's great, we're getting more financial from the foundation calculation, but things can change. And I would prefer to view this as a percent change over the total budget, right? Because now we're 91 million and change. So if we were able to keep a 0% tax levy, but increase the budget, say, by 5% up to 95 million, I would be very uncomfortable with that idea, because pumping the brakes is about talking, in my mind, about the budget that runs us as a totality. Then we can look at our individual pieces, parts, and where we can get money, right, from year to year, because that does change year to year. This year we have a lot more state aid than we had last year. But to me, when I think about pumping the brakes, I am cognizant of course, what our tax levy is. But it's to me much more about what we need total to run the district, right? Because those are two independent things. If we increase 4 or 5% each year, 3% each year, but because of our foundation money or our pilots, we can keep our tax base the same. If any of those changes, now we're confronted with a huge total budget that we have to figure out how to make all that money work in, right? So when I'm looking at this, I am going to be looking at it based on the total budget as opposed to just what the tax levy would be. Right. So that's one aspect, one thought that I have here. The other one is with all of this new money coming in, and even though some of it may be temporary with some of these federal funds, I've said this before in the open, I've said this to individuals here. I'm a big proponent of making sure that we try to meet the demands as close to the source as possible. And since our source are students, it's teachers. Looking at a report that we had not too long ago of our class numbers, I'm really happy to see that our overall class numbers, I believe, have come down over the years. Because I was specifically speaking to previous your predecessor and other people about smaller class sizes, but I still think we could do a little bit more there. And so as we're looking at the budget, I would also think about, when I'm looking at this, again, trying to put more of the focus right with the students, because if we have a classroom that averages in a school, 24 students in an elementary class, I think that's a lot. And if we can help with TAs or other ways, I'm open to thoughts, but I would like us to have a conversation again. And again, I do appreciate, about focusing on that. And I will say, completely thankful that, with a lot of the money coming in, we hired a whole lot of new TAs, and we've done a lot of all this. So I am happy about it, but I don't want to lose sight on that, and that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for as well in the budget. So.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts from people?
I keep doing it wrong. I think what you're looking for, I appreciate everything that Jim just said. And I think as we move on in the budget season, we're going to have those more comprehensive and build the whole thing.
Yes.
And not do it with the goal of the 0%. But I think you're looking for, does anyone have a gut level, I'm really averse to this? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, right? I mean, what we're trying to do is, if we want to see this, we want to start to try to move in that direction. We're going to do our best. I heard what you had to say, Jim, and all of the board members. We'll do our best taking that information into consideration. We will certainly do that and build this together. But I think we can do it at least first step with a 0% increase to the taxes. We think we can do that. Now, I'm not sure if every category is going to have a 0% tax, and I know you didn't say that, because we have salaries, we have benefits, we have costs that go up every year that we can't just say you're not going to have an increase. But I think we can certainly keep all of those thoughts in mind, and we'll take it one step at a time. But what we're trying to do is expedite the process, and if the board really wants to try to get a 0% tax increase for our public, then we want to try to work at that rather than trying to do other things. So you don't have to decide tonight. I just wanted to put that out there and see what your thoughts were, basically. Any other thoughts from anybody else?
Yeah, so I would just say, I had the experience of moving to Oswego, and our city taxes did not go up for years and years. And then we had a 43% increase. And so I don't think it's fair for us or legitimate for us to pat ourselves on the back for a 0% increase, and then we leave stuff severely underfunded.
Agreed.
Right? So just as long as, I think we do expense-based budgeting, right? So we, as long as I just want us to also be, I think we have a lot of different long-term things to look at between the nuclear plant, the nuclear pilots, and the, but, as long as we're funding, and it's, I think fantastic that state and federal are funding more of education to levels that they had in the past and have really cut down on.
So we'll bring information back in budget workshops, and then we'll just take it one step at a time. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay. Everybody all right? Are we good? Okay, all right, just want to make sure. All right, screening testing, just want to share a quick update with you. Over the Thanksgiving break, we had received all of our testing materials for screening testing, got everything in, and we're told, like districts across the entire country, that the company that we were using, they had an outsourced administrator for the program. They decided to stop working with that administrator. So they have a new group that they're working with now through Your Friends Clinical Enterprise. And so they've now appointed a new lead group of folks that are going to be working with the schools. So we had like a little bump, basically. We were all set. We have our staff, most of our staff in place. We had all the materials that are in one particular room, but we had a little bit of bump. So they wanted to do some additional training with the new administrator, make sure we understood the protocols. There is an email, I believe, that was coming out this evening, if I remember correctly, to tell us about start dates and last minute information. So it just took us a little while to get trained with the new group, but we believe that hopefully by the end of the week, we should be all set and ready to go. So I just wanted to share that little bump kind of came out last week, late last week, we're just, hopefully we'll be all set and then we're ready to go. We're ready to roll. Okay, any questions on that, board? All right, and then this evening, I just kind of wanted to share tonight, just as a follow-up on administrators, but before I do that, I just want to also just make sure I share, this evening we got, late this afternoon, we got some calls from a number of our parents around the state of emergency for COVID-19 here for the city of Oswego. So earlier today, the mayor put out a state of emergency specifically around the hospital. There are some concerns there. My understanding is that they're kind of at their capacity and they need other assistance and other supports. And so in order to get those supports and in order to divert some things around the city, you kind of need to go into that state, basically. So the mayor did make the call to do so, but that does not have really anything to do with the school districts at all. It really is around the hospital, basically, and the concerns around meeting the needs of the folks with the hospital. So I just wanted to share that with folks. We got some calls around it. I called out to the mayor's office just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, and was clearly, it was clearly communicated to me that this really, has nothing to do with your school district. This is truly about, we're concerned that we're at capacity with respect to the hospital, and to get those supports in place that were needed, they needed to put this into place. There was some discussion last night with the hospital and their administrators, and so that's what they're doing right now. It certainly is, though, something that we want to keep in mind as we kind of move forward. We are watching infections across the county, which continue to grow, and we're watching very closely what's happening in our district. And just so that folks understand, I think at our last meeting I said that if we start to see infections continue to rise at alarming rates in our schools, that we're going to be putting some pause in on some things, particularly at events. We're certainly going to be limiting the number of people who are at events. And depending on what we see, there may be more. So I just wanted to share that with folks so people know what was going on. Any questions around that at all? Okay.
I actually have, this is sort of it's a related question. Tomorrow is the vaccine clinic for the 5 to 11-year-olds. Is that going to be here at the high school again, or is that one now really at the health department at Bunner Street?
So ours, for our kiddos who got, that one I believe is at the health department.
Okay.
But our second day is, I think, December 15th, I believe is the date. That is our second date, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I think it's tomorrow, and I got a note that said, like, it's at Bunner Street, right? Isn't it 3 weeks ago?
We have one that's coming here again. Isn't it the
Right,
15th?
I believe they were trying to run a number of clinics.
Okay.
So ours was a week and a half ago, perhaps, maybe just about 2 weeks ago. So it would be at least another week out, I think.
Okay.
I can get you the
I'll just
exact
go
date.
with what they sent me.
Right, but we can double check on that.
We'll double check for sure.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
I did have a question. Just, I know, again, the county is riding up at almost 13%, I think.
11.7.
11.7? Okay. So 11.7, have we seen a correlation within the district?
We have seen, the last week we had some additional cases. I'm not sure that we had 11.7% of our students, but we did have, coming right out of Thanksgiving, we had 17 between students and staff members who had COVID-19. And then throughout the week last week, we had about 21, I think, cases maybe. And on average, we've been doing between 15 to 20 cases, about a week, basically. So but coming into the week, we had not seen numbers like 17, 18 on a Monday, right? So right after the break, that's what we saw. So that was a little bit different. I don't have the numbers in front of me for yesterday, but I don't believe we were like up in the 20s or 30s or anything like that. I want to say we were less than 10 cases. I'm not sure what the number was off the top of my head, but we were watching it closely to see what happens. We did come back over the weekend. I want to say we had less than 10 cases again. So I'm not, is it in correlation with the city? Not quite, but are we concerned? We are, and we're watching. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Okay. So now I want to just touch bases about our administrative staff to share just as a follow-up. In our last board meeting, we talked about, several meetings ago, rather, I made a recommendation to add 3 new administrators, the director of ELA, math, and the assistant director for business. And I just wanted to kind of share some information in terms of rationale. So why add these positions? So just to review a couple of things. First offhand, we do have a strategic plan that has set some goals where we want to kind of raise student outcomes. And so, additional staffing is needed in order to reach the goals. We are in a time where we really need both instructional and some administrative support to really help us move forward with some of those goals that are there. In the plan that we have, there are 2 areas under engage. That talks about delivering exceptional learning experiences. The first portion of the plan talks about, ensuring rigorous, aligned, and relevant curriculum and instruction, and then increasing literacy rates of all students. And certainly what we'd like to do is utilize those supports to help us with moving forward with those 2 goals that are outlined in the strategic plan. The second thing that, in terms of rationale as to why we wanted to move with those positions is, the district data demonstrates that we have some, years of concerning performance, and we certainly want to try to move that performance in a better place. One of the district's schools we know is having some real challenges. We've been on a state list for a while, and we're working to get off that list, working really hard. And what we'd like to do is just try to move us forward in a very positive way for all. The other concern that we have right now is that COVID-19 has, in addition to some of the challenges we were having prior to COVID-19, it's now created even additional learning loss and gaps and support needs. All those really require additional instructional and leadership support and also oversight. And so we certainly, in terms of rationale, that certainly is a part of what we're doing. When we look at data for our district, some of the data, we have some grade levels that have made progress over the years, the last couple of years, not quite to where we would like to see. We'd like to see 50% more kids meeting state standards. And we've had some struggles just getting to the 50%. We've had some progress that we've been making, but we think we can certainly accelerate that progress with some more support in place. Just so the data before we go into it, so some grade levels, again, made some progress. There was a change in test, by the way, that New York State put into place a couple of years ago, and you'll kind of see that in some of the data. The data we're going to talk about in just a moment, there was a strong opt-out movement, which is part of some of this data, just so that some prerequisite information. And then in the 2021 data, the last school year's data, we want to be clear that data, as we go through and show you it really shouldn't be compared to other years because there was a lot of different things going on with that data. Well, first of all, some of the tests were tests that we took years before that the state put out again. Second of all, a lot of our children did not participate in it because of the pandemic. Some kids were doing the test from home, some doing it from here. Some of the tests wasn't even tested again. Some of the parts were excluded from the test. So last year's data really shouldn't be compared to the data from the years before, just as an FYI. Okay. All right, so when we look at grades 3 through 8 data, in terms of ELA, what we see is that across the board, we have about 33% of our children. Let me just make sure I got the right piece here. 33% of our children by the 2018 and 19 school year were kind of meeting state standards. And you can see that really from 2009, on, we saw some real dips. And again, we had some new tests that came in. We had some different expectations there, but we definitely have had some challenges there for the entire grades 3 through 8. Just so you're aware, in the earlier years, some of those years we did have an ELA director, math director, data coordinator. Many of those positions were in place, right? Again, also some different tests, different commissioner. just sharing some of the differences that were in place. But just so you know, those are some of the things that were in place in those earlier years. And then you can see grade 3 data for ELA. We saw some growth around grade 3, which is awesome. They went up to about 45%. Grade 4 kind of had a time frame towards the end where they've gone up and then come back down to around 33. Grade 5, 30 down to 23% as a whole. Grade 6, they kind of went up to the 44s and then down to 41. So we saw some progress, moving up from like 17% back in 2013 and 14. Grade 7, you can see we're in around the 28. We're in the 20s in terms of progress. Grade 8, we kind of went down from 31 down to 27, but up to 29. Okay, and so again, when we look at the entire grades 3 through 8 progress, we're at about 33% in terms of students who have been in the past, at the last real year of taking the test in terms of where they were at. Now, when you look at math, it's slightly higher. It's 39% with a repeat from 2017 to 18. Grade 3 in terms of math, we've been in the 40s there. We went up to 47%, close to that 50%, but down a little bit. Grade 4, we got up to 40%, but went down to 38%. Grade 5, you're again in the 40s there. Excuse me, grade 3, I'm sorry, math, my apologies. No, I'm saying that wrong. Grade 5, my apologies. I'm reading from the wrong page here. Here we go. Grade 5, you're in the 40% there, my apologies. And then grade 6, you got about 43%. Grade 7 data, we kind of had some concerns there, but it's been climbing up one step at a time to 34%. Grade 8, between 7 up to 27%. And then when you look at the whole, again, grade 3 through 8 in terms of math, again, at about 39%. So now data is not the, qualitative or quantitative data is not everything, but it certainly is information that we do look at, that we use to help drive some of the decisions that we're making in terms of staffing, in terms of supports that are in place for kids. And yes, are we dealing with a new test? We are. It's a couple years in now with the new test. And we're just trying to take it one step at a time, basically. The third reason that so a couple of things. First, we have a new strategic plan that we're really trying to meet some of those goals. And we do need not only, instructional staff to help us with that, but also we need some administrative staff to help lead the work that we're trying to do. So that's number one. Second reason, our data suggests that we certainly need some help with moving us forward, and we've got learning loss that's already occurring. We need some extra help in terms of the leadership portion of this. The third rationale piece is around the structures that we currently have in place. We have an executive leadership team that's working really hard, and we have administrators in our district. But to be honest with you, we have some real concerns. When I look at some of our administrative members, they have a lot on their plate. We have some people who have anywhere from 40 to almost 50 different responsibilities, which is quite a bit. And so the district is really struggling to move forward, really due to some of the lack of proper oversight and staffing, and we need some help. Not only do we need the help in the reading and math, but also in the business office. We have over a $90 million budget. We're working through, a $63 million capital project. We're trying to move forward, but there's a lot in that arena that we're trying to work through. Let me just share a little bit from a couple of these positions. I'm going to walk over if that's okay. Okay. Can you hear me okay? All right. So I got a little board here, and you know what? I can probably also switch. And I don't want to screw up people. Can they see? You know what? How about we do this? I'm going to flip her. I'm going to use this other one for you all. I'm going to bring this one up. Matt, can you just turn this up for a little bit for me? Let's see if we can do this on this one, okay? Feel like I'm in church or singing a solo. It's all good. Here we go. Let's see if this will work for me. Uh-oh. Matt? Yeah, let's see. Did we go too far on it? Yeah. Oh, here we go. We got it. All right. So I want to do let's do the other one first, Matt. Can we come back and, can you get me the other one up first? No, the executive director one. Yeah. There we go. All right, so let's try this one. Matt, I'm going to need you one more time. Yeah. All right. Can you see that okay, board? No? No? You okay? Okay. I'm going to keep trying to move it. Everybody okay? I can see. All right. So I'm just going to go down a little bit and show you what the job looks like for the Director of Elementary Education. All right? So the Executive Director, Elementary Education and Accountability. And Carrie currently has that role. So these are the things that she's doing every day. So she supervises 5 elementary schools, working with the schools to make sure that they're moving forward in a unified way, moving forward with respect to elementary education. She also supervises special education, which has a number of things under it. All of our Medicaid high costs stack, which is getting reimbursement from the state for all the supports that we put in place for students. All 504 supports for our kids who have, some disabilities. 611, 619 grants, all of those things, and the special ed program across the entire district, Carrie supervises. We have a special ed director who works under her to make sure things are going well. Student services, she's responsible for those, which includes English language learners, OT, PT, speech, counselors, student hearings, code of conducts, DASA reporting, McKinney-Vento, and nursing in all of our schools, making sure that those things are happening like they're supposed to. District data and accountability. There are numerous reports that the state requires that we report on every year. Everything from our outcomes with ELA, math, science, and social studies, to just a number of accountability measures throughout the year. How many reports would you say, just off the top of your head, in terms of this? It's actually weekly. Can you put the microphone on?
I actually report weekly to the state, all our data, student attendance, all of that. Those reports are looked at. We have a different calendar for looking at all the reports to make sure the data is correct. So there's numerous reports.
Professional development, staff development days. She works very closely with Heidi and some of the other leaders to make sure that we have the professional development days outlined and put together. Our district mentoring program, one of the things that she certainly does help and spearhead. APPR, oversees all the scores and planning for student learning objectives. This is the evaluation process that has to be in place, and there's some state requirements that kind of go along with that. Federal funds and all of the grants, and we have a number of federal funds and federal grants. Title I, Title II, tell me more.
Title III, Title IV, Title V. I also do the ARP and the ESSER and McKinney-Vento. And they just added another ARP, which is also a homeless ARP. So I have another grant to due in a couple weeks.
She coordinates grades 3 through 8 testing, works with the principals to make sure that the testing program is up and running and make sure that all the requirements are followed through with the testing. Heidi also works in coordination with her to support her with that. Academic intervention program, especially for our K through 5 schools. RTI and math interventions, making sure that kids have those interventions, all the intervention plans that have to be in place. And we have hundreds of students in all those schools that do receive RTI and math intervention. Student registration, she certainly works with that process to make sure kids are in the right schools. Universal pre-K, all is under her auspices as well. Textbook acquisition, ordering and training for new programs. SUNY partnerships with Team Sheldon, the Layton community, the Bookmobile, also underneath her auspices. Platforms that support instruction, IXL, iReady, Star Reading, M-Class, all those platforms, all that work comes out of her office. Non-public schools, she works with them as the liaison to make sure that they have all the supports that they have to have in place, to make sure that they are supported in the right ways according to the laws. Summer school, American Rescue Plan, ESSER, she's been working together. This is our first year with that, but that is something that we've been working on as a whole team, but she certainly does spearhead a lot of those things. Homeschooling is also underneath her auspices. Teacher Center, we have a teacher center that we do have in our district this year. She's the person who is definitely responsible for that as well. School tools, all the report cards, K through 6, making sure that those are aligned with state standards, that we constantly look at those and improve those. Curriculum and instruction, she works together with Heidi, but ELA for K through 6, math, social studies, and science, special shares with music and art. Together they work together, but a lot of, for our elementary settings, that all that work comes out of through her. So I've just listed here quite a few of some of the items. Are there more? Yes. I think I sent you all a job duties description with her, and that's what we see in her area. Okay, Matt, let me, yes.
God, Carrie, there's a lot of stuff there. Wow. Yeah, no kidding. What I wonder is the proportionality. So right now, what we're talking about is a director of ELA and a director of math. Mm-hmm. When I look at that big long list, I'm wondering what kind of proportion of the job would be helped by the ELA and the math alone, and then possibly, if there were alternate proposals, what about curriculum instruction as a whole? I mean, it seems to me as though that is from what you've said, maybe a small portion.
So I'm not sure how to best answer your question, but in terms of how much taking and getting a reading and a math director would certainly help in this area, quite a bit, because there's a lot of support that's needed around the ELA and around the math, a lot of attention that's needed. So eventually we'd like to see is this position roll into like a curriculum and instruction director. And a lot of these other duties, we'd like to move off into somebody else's plate. But it's too much under this area. But in terms of the help that would provide, you want to just talk a little bit about having an ELA and a math director, what that would do to help someone in your position?
Well, it helps to focus and do more inspection. Right now, I'm not able to get into the buildings to inspect as much as I would like to really be inspecting and helping the principals, because the principals can't inspect as much as they would like either, because they're definitely have other duties. So, and even just with the initiative, the new reading K3 initiative we're doing right now, the focus on that is daily. I have a contact with the coaches and the contact with the district coach. So that's something that takes up a portion of my time. And then math truly needs to come to the front. It has been, I work with a great team. Jen's over there, the AIS team that's been helping to support me. But again, it needs more steering, more time with steering. And we can't put more on the principals' plates to help with that steering, because their plates are full. So
as a follow-up, how about the other two aspects, the science, social studies, and special education? Kind of an idea, the proportionality compared to ELA and math. I'd seen ELA and math is big, of course, but we're talking about a heck of a lot of other subjects in those two categories.
So the science and the social studies is very important. What we'd like to do is try to work with some of our teacher leaders just to start there at least as we kind of move forward. The ELA and the math are the most critical. You know, literacy, if children cannot read, they're going to struggle across the board in all the subjects. Much of the math that children are doing today, you know, it's literacy. It's word problems, being able to read, comprehend, understand what the question is asking for. And so I think when we began to think about where do we start with what we need, it was clear to us that literacy and math were the two most critical places, right?
And can I just add, the other piece that we need to look at is to make this K-12. Right now, with Heidi taking on the secondary piece, there's just not as tight a vertical alignment as I think we need as a district. We need to take these ELA and math and make them back to K-12 in order to keep that alignment and to have consistency within our district on what our curriculum looks like in both ELA and math.
Heidi, you want to add something? Go ahead.
Exactly what Carrie just said. We talk a lot when we have a spare minute or two about the need for vertical alignment and discussions in those crossover sections, 5-6 to 7-8 to 9-10. But I just don't have the time. We could have a personnel issue that comes up that derails the best of plans and takes the majority of my time that week to dig into that, to help our employees, to make sure things are going the way they should. And as much as I would want to talk about instruction all day, I would want to meet with math teachers and talk about prioritizing standards and making sure our curriculum is aligned to the outcomes that we want. We just don't have the time, and it needs that attention.
All right. Any other questions before we move on to the next one? Okay. Matt, can you help me move to the next person? Next, please.
Matt?
Yes, please.
I don't think anyone's going to argue with you that they are overtaxed. I really don't. I don't think you'll have an argument there. There is a question, I think, that has been kind of knocking around in some of our heads about whether it's best to start with these two directorships or like someone who can do curriculum, soup to nuts.
So I think you need all of them. I think you need a person, you know, and I don't want to be premature. I want to be careful with what I say, but we soon will be having some changes in some of the leadership, right? And I think you definitely will need to have someone who is over all the curriculum and that these people will work underneath them. I think you need all the above. I think you need a curriculum director who actually manages the day-to-day operations with ELA, math, science, social studies, instructional technology, arts, all of those things. But I definitely think that you also, you really need, yes, do I think we should start with the math and the ELA director? I think yes. Soon, we're going to have some leadership changes, right? We will have some attrition that comes in. And while we have some time now, this would be a great opportunity for us to kind of really get in, to get some of the institutional knowledge and information kind of, supported and helped and shared with other folks. But also, right now, we are really in a very challenging time. As our children have come back, there is a lot of learning loss. There is a lot of need to align what people are doing, to support people, to coach folks, to move people forward. There's a leadership gap right now, and it has become, I would say, exacerbated because of the pandemic. It's become very clear that moving forward, this is really needed, that you need someone to really help outline our curriculum expectations, lead that work, and also you need people underneath that particular person to kind of move us in that direction. And I would say reading is critical. Yes, math is critical. You see, we just shared with you our performance, but it's even worse now because of the pandemic in some ways. So we really need help with reading and with math more than we've ever had before. And these folks are working really hard. And we've had our conversation before today because I don't want them to feel like I'm thinking they're not working hard. But Heidi, with all the things going on with the staffing right now, with all of the pandemic-related, challenges, it's tough. It's really hard, and it's just it's shining a light on. We really need help. Okay. Hope that helped support. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see, and then we'll pretty much be done there. Yes. So in the Business and Finance Office, we're also experiencing some challenges. Here's the things that certainly Nancy is responsible for. So she is in charge of the finances with our $91 million budget, which include payroll, purchasing, general, music and cooperative through city BOCES, financial forecasting, accounts payable, accounting, auditing, internal, external, and state. BOCES cross contracts, she's responsible for making sure those things are in place. BOCES billing, BOCES projects, the budget, contracts, city library, tax collection, claims, auditing, insurance, student, auto, commercial, pilot with programs, particularly like with our nuclear power plant. But just think of all the pilots we have in our district, making sure that those things are operating correctly. State reporting, there is numerous state reports that have to be turned in throughout the year. Transparency is one of those reports, the ESSA report, the ST3, the mandated reports, maintenance of effort, civil service reports, just quite a few things that are going on there. Fixed assets, records management, food service is underneath this area here. There's a budget for food service, state reporting, free and reduced lunch requirements that have to be followed through with, state aid analysis, transportation, budget, bus procedures, state aid, buildings and grounds, facilities budget, all of making sure that the buildings and ground director is up and moving and doing all the things that need to be done with our projects, the capital project and the maintainable ones. Security is also under this area with state reporting, building level plans, coordination of our SROs, event security, making sure that the events are covered with security. We have a $63 million capital improvement project. So she oversees and works together with me through those meetings, coordinates with the architect managers, liaisons for the building. She's the voice to make sure that things are done right, the eyes and the ears as well. Changes, with the orders, approvals, the designs, the finishes, the state liaison when necessary. All those things are under her piece. Foster students, she deals with all the billings for that, make sure that the transportation, all those things are in place. Non-resident tuition billing, coordinating Medicaid checks, RFPs for 2 to 3 year RFPs, vendor contracts, medical payments, health, dental registration. All of these things are just some of the highlights that are underneath these positions. So, the message I'm trying to share is we need extra help. And I'm asking the support of the board because of when you look at those things, these job descriptions, and just these are some of the duties, not all of them. There's a lot to them. There's a lot to them. I understand, in the critical years when you're budgeting and you have some challenges like this district went through. I get it. I certainly understand, having to consolidate, bring things, under control the best you can, and I get it. But we tried to work with it for a number of years, but honestly, it's challenging. It's crumbling in terms of our productivity, okay? Matt, can you take me to the next slide? Thank God for Matt. He's great. Yes, sir. And he's this way every day of the week. It doesn't matter what you're doing. He's just like, he is always helpful and supportive, and I appreciate him. All right. Go to the next slide. All right. So also just wanted to share with you in terms of what's changed in the business office. The state reporting requirements have changed. Every year there's more reports added to it. Capital improvement project requirements and oversight. Our budget has risen, of course. The departmental expectations and requirements for health and safety, buildings and ground, nutrition, security, transportation, all these things have changed, especially now because of COVID-19. Grant writing and reporting requirements. So Nancy has a part with those grants as well, making sure that what's been put on paper, that it actually operates and it's in place the way that it's supposed to be, and that those funds are also audited. Fixed asset oversights, fiscal planning and state aid, auditing procedures and regulations, again, the pandemic, and then staffing needs. We have some challenges around staffing needs. Just payroll. We have, over 700 employees? I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. 735. We have one person in payroll doing the payroll and she works hard. She does a great job. She's probably listening to this right now. Kelly, you're fantastic, right? But that's a lot of oversight for 735 people. Only one person is there. And so We have some things in place to help look at the payroll, but certainly an extra hand and set of eyes would make a huge difference with that kind of work. Okay? It's over on the side. Thank you. Okay. And just, again, in terms of historical reference, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting. The district has, in the past, we did have some positions in place that were cut. Director of Literacy, Director of Math, Director of Data, Academic Intervention Support, Assistant Director of Special Education, Assistant Superintendent, and the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. These are positions that were had. We also had TOSA positions in the past as well, Math, Science, ELA, Social Studies, and Technology. You know, so we have had these positions before. And then in terms of district data, again, it demonstrates that, you know, we need some extra help and support in place. And all these positions we know, again, were cut, consolidated, you know, from 2014 up to current. You know, in terms of just what people are doing, so I have looked at other districts. I think I shared this a couple meetings ago. There's no one district that's doing the same thing. One size doesn't fit all. Everybody has different needs. You know, some of our neighbors, we have one neighbor who has a literacy director in place. We have another one who has an assistant director and somebody else to support other needs. You know, it kind of really, nobody's doing the same thing. Why? Because I think each district is unique. Each district has its own set of things that they need. And for us, I think these are things that we need. So I just wanted to share that. And then if you want to.
Mathis, I think it's 2016.
2016 from 2014?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We can correct that, make sure. Okay, so the last thing is this: in the near future, there could be, the other thing, that's kind of why we're looking at some of these changes, is there could be some definite significant loss in terms of institutional loss due to some retirements, which could cause, again, some concerns around continuity and consistency for kids. We do have a number of people in our administrative team who could retire, who are eligible to retire between now and the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years at the most. We do anticipate that we'll be having some retirement. So as people are, we're going through attrition now, I think it's a good time to really start looking at setting up where we want to head in the future. Okay. So I wanted to just share that. And I want to thank the board for their time. My final recommendation, again, I go back to, I do believe we need an ELA Math and Director of Business, and that we should also monitor progress as we move forward. So if things are not working right, or if we do have challenges, we certainly want to keep a good eye on that. And if we need to change things around, certainly we want to keep ourselves open to those prospects, right? But those are the recommendations that I'd like to share. And so with that said, that's all I have. Any questions, any additional questions from the board tonight? All right. Thank you so much for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
So Karen, I think we'll go back now to the resolution that we passed by, so that can come full circle.
Under Board of Education, item B, revised Oswego City School District organizational chart. If I could have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, so I appreciate the presentation, and I absolutely appreciate all of the work our administrators have been doing. I do agree that extra help is needed. I'm just concerned that other options haven't been presented that I think might be worth considering. Being a teacher and an administrator myself, I do believe that to affect change in student success is to put the resources as close as possible. We do need an administrative team that can support, absolutely. But if I'm looking to invest additional resources, I personally would tend more towards the teaching aspect, teachers on special assignment, things about that nature. which are easier to redact from budgets than administrative positions. And I do look at these positions as something that, our time on any board is finite, and that positions, when they're created, they tend to stick around and roll over from budget to budget. And it's only in the bad years, like 2016, that they're reevaluated, unless you have an external study, which I'm glad we're doing. But when asked, there's no record we've ever done it before. So I'm not sure how often these things are looked at. We're talking between these two positions, with benefits, it's really going to cost us over $300,000 to our budget. Again, including benefits and salary together. During the presentation here, I've heard a few things. Dr. Calvin, you did mention that the data started to drop while we had these positions. So we had a director of math, we had a director of ELA in 2009, 10, 11, 12, up to 2016. So we had these administrative positions, but our numbers, for whatever reason, started to drop in 2009. It wasn't Common Core. I know a lot of people have their opinions about Common Core, but that wasn't 2009. It wasn't, I believe, for a few more years.
Jim, if I can just interject for a second, I did look that up in between, and
Yeah.
the test changed in 2010. The standards
The
changed.
standard changed. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And then it changed again in 2013.
Good. So that is good to know. I do know from my time on the strategic committee, we have implemented new ELA curricula that's now been rolled out completely, I believe, through K through 2 or 3. We're starting to do it with more of the younger grades. My personal feeling from a fiscal standpoint is looking at trying to implement some of these things and see how they affect change, rather than throw everything in the kitchen sink, but the kitchen sink at the problem at the same time. So I would like to see, how are we coming through with some of our, our new curricula, and how does that affect change? I did hear, Dr. Kelvin, you mentioned that this would be a transition in response to this idea of vertical alignment. It's one of my concerns here, is that when I look at these positions, I don't think we're taking a whole lot off of our other two executive directors, not in the same way that maybe an executive director of curriculum and instruction would. So I think that I would personally like to see an alternate presentation that honestly doesn't have it really niched into just a director of math, just a director of literacy, that answers to two different people in administrative structure. Yeah, that's I guess what I have to say. I'm currently, yeah.
Jim, there's just one thing I hear everything you're saying, and don't necessarily disagree, but about raising the budget $300,000, I don't believe we're adding $300,000 to the budget. No. In fact, we are taking Title I money for the ELA director, which is very, very important, because it's money we already have, and we've just used it for other things that may or may not have the same benefit or value added as this position. And then the other is money that has also been found from other lines. So we aren't raising our budget $300,000.
Yes, thank you very much, Heather. I apologize if that's what I led on. That would have been me misspeaking. We are not actually looking to take our $91 million and change budget and add anything to it. My take on it and the way I look at a budget is, if you can find money to do this, well, then you have found money that you could do anything with, including nothing with, if that's what you deem fit. Maybe one of the ways to tap the brake, one of the ways to hold back. And I'm not saying that we should not invest. I am. I'll just go back to my experience as a teacher and administrator is that the investment in administration does not have the same value added as a whole as the teachers. And I'm not taking away anything from administrators. I am not. We need help. I'm just not convinced that this is the help. I just got to be frank.
Okay. And so I think Jim's looking at it as an opportunity cost conversation. And so I think it just depends where you place the value of the help we need right now in this moment. And I do see this as a very important stopgap thing to do, because we need to be affecting students now. And so for me, I believe this is an important step forward that will be followed by more steps that will help bring the overall picture of how our administration works into alignment with a greater vision that also reflects our strategic plan and all of those things we're trying to do that will actually affect students directly.
Any other comments?
I see your point, Jim, and I look at it, but I think that's subjective to different situations, and looking where we are right now and knowing the flexibility that we have in these two positions. First, that they can be covered economically, but then also that they can be, if they don't work out and we monitor them, we have the potential to change. Am I not correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have the potential to change. Where we are right now and getting as close to be, you want to get close to the students, I understand that, but if our administration at the top is not being as effective as it can be because it's multitasking in so many different directions, I think to spot those two areas and to put people focused on those two areas, it's a wise decision at this time. I think knowing what we need to do and knowing where we stand as a district in both math and English, and the attention is needed there, I see it as a benefit and not something that is totally locked in stone, that we have the flexibility to change it over time.
If anybody pays attention. If people reanalyze and evaluate over time.
Well, I think we will, and I think we have to as a board. I think, and we were talking about this in terms of our objectives and our goals, but the objectives should be, and we started to write these out, and I do have them here for everybody, but we have to monitor it collectively and judiciously, and we have to look at that and say, yes, is it being effective? And we have to pick those points and do it. But I just see it right now because I know that particularly language, the ability to communicate in any way, shape, or form is the essence of what we need to start to get these kids anywhere. And so I want to know, and also from sitting in on the strategic planning board for literacy and knowing what we're putting in and seeing the excitement that is at that level, I do want the consistency and continuity throughout the system. And so I do look at that and say, if we can harness that, if we can focus that, that's where it would be very effective in the long term. And that's what I'm still looking long term.
Thanks, Tom. So, I mean, the other thing I would say is I think it's important that we do monitor the changes that we're making at K through 2. But I think we also have our 3rd through 12th graders that need more immediate, clearly need more immediate intervention. And if these positions will be able to come in and effectively address those learning losses, I mean, it's great that I hope for our K through 2, they'll come through and have a much easier time. But I don't think we can write off the 3rd through 12th graders and hope that we can kind of stopgap them, moving forward.
I think, is it on now?
Yeah.
Yes. We've done a lot of reflecting on this and talking about it and trying to figure it out. And I think there are a lot of different ways we could go at this. I might see another way like Jim does, but right now, I truly believe that we need to take some of the pressure off of the leaders we've already got. And if this is the way the superintendent sees it, even though I might come up with a different idea, I'm in agreement with it because I think we're burning these administrators out. Right now, they're tired. I've been looking at the 2 over there, and you can tell they're tired. Nancy's tired. So we've got to do something. I can only see your eyes. but I can tell that you're all tired. So, I just think we need to move on it.
I think one thing I appreciate about what Jim's saying, I think if we were building a new school and we were going to talk about how what's the best system we're going to put in place to meet all the needs of the students that are coming to that school, we would do it in exactly the way you're talking about. Unfortunately, that's not what we're doing. We're coming in midway with an already existing system, and we are trying to make measures that make sense as we go, but we do need to meet the needs of the students immediately. And so if this is what Mathis and our administration are saying we need, I'm not going to substitute my own judgment for theirs.
I guess the only thing I'll say is what I heard is that this is a transition. I wrote the word down. It's a transition, and that we actually need a person to wholly cover curriculum and instruction, to truly take things off of their plate. And this falls short of that. I think it gets too nichey. I hope we don't approve this right now and send it back and hopefully have something different. I'll leave it at that.
Well, actually, are you making that motion, Jim?
No, so I contemplated moving to postpone this motion to the next meeting, which would give an alternate chance to have another proposal, and I'm not going to do that. If the board, after this, hearing this, thinks that this is a good idea, we'll just vote it up. If the board thinks that we would like an alternative to this proposal, then you would vote no. No need to get into any kind of other motions.
Okay. Why don't we do a roll call vote since it is somewhat.
For Board of Education, item B, organizational chart, Tom Chapa,
Yes.
Heather Del Conte,
Yes.
Lisa Glidden.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed Pamela Dowd, but she is absent. James McKenzie,
No?
Sean Amek,
Yes.
Linda Serino.
Yes.
The resolution has passed 5-1. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, items A through E as presented. If I could have a motion.
I'll move it.
All in favor, or any discussion, excuse me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next is personnel with Heidi Sweeney.
Our professional recommendations are items A through I as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Motion, please. Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed.
Our support staff recommendations are items J through N. I will do the O, sub and temp employees separate.
Items J through N. Motion.
Move it.
Second.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed.
And then O, substitute and temporary employees.
Motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second it?
Any discussion?
I will be abstaining from this vote. My daughter is listed as one of the substitute candidates.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next is finance with Nancy Squires.
A is budget transfer. A and B are budget transfers. The first one is to our fiscal account, and that is for our bonds that we took out for our buses. And B is a transfer for $45,000, and that is for a server that is desperately needed in technology. And C and D are donations. C is a donation to Fitchie Park School for $250 from the Exelon Employee Giving Program. And D is a donation to the middle school for their biking program for $1,000 as presented.
Motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Next on the agenda is items from the board.
I just want to thank this board for the discourse that we have, that every single board member takes this job incredibly seriously, and your role in protecting tax dollars and making sure that the goals and objectives of the school district are still pushed forward. We may see things differently from time to time, but I really appreciate every single person on this board and what you bring, so thank you.
Any other items? Would there be a need for an executive session?
Yes. Yes, to discuss the particular performance of a particular staff member.
Okay. Motion?
May I add a health and safety aspect, please?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Motion, please.
Move it.
Come on, Lisa.
Second?
I'll second.
Would there be a need for a vote after executive session? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You may move to executive session.
Are we moving this time? Are we